Okay,
then,
so
let us
we're ready to
begin.
start.
Hello and welcome, chaps, to a discussion on Reapers. We have a special guest with us, Nemesis. So, welcome to the show, my friend. And how about you start us off by just giving some general thoughts on how the Reaper is going to help necromancers out.
Well, the first thing I want to say, the first thing I always wanted to say, this is the first time I actually saw the person that was behind the necromancer. And I don't know his name, Robert something, the Asian
Robert
guy.
G.
Yeah.
Well, the way he was phasing in and out of his own mind, discussing things, he was really like on top of things. And people that know me and even you guys know that I was always bragging the build system. So I want to give a shout out to Robert guy because most of the time people, I mean, they don't get enough appreciation for the work they're doing. So that's really something. Second thing, before we begin, it's important, from my opinion, it's important that people understand that we don't know the full story, not even half. We see the build system, but we don't know how the PvE system is going to interact with the new build system, and we also don't know the items and runes and stuff like that, because a lot of the traits disappeared from passives, and we don't know how that's going to get integrated into the items, or if it's going to get integrated, because we also now use 3 trait paths instead of 2. So we can talk about how much we know so far, but it's still the end game is going to be really different. Could be really different because it's like we get a condition, we get a skill that does 1,000,000 condition damage, and all the monsters have condition immunity. So we did nothing. So yeah, that's the introduction for me.
Okay. Well, Inks, what do you think of Reapers just as a whole, in a general idea?
You know, like Nemesis was saying, for PvE anyway, like Nemesis was saying, we don't know what Heart of Thorns has in store for us just yet. We don't know how those encounters are going to interact. We don't know how, you know, challenging content, we don't even know what that is yet. All we know is it's not the Wyvern fight. You know, other than that, we don't really know what that is. I think we can speculate a bit that ArenaNet is walking away from dungeons at this point. Or at least they're not focusing on it for the next year or so. And I think Fractals is going to be their new focus point over dungeons. Like, I think Fractals are going to continue to develop over dungeons, unfortunately. So, you know, you have to ask yourself how are builds different in Fractals than they are in dungeons, because they're not exactly the same. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio there. In structured PvP and in World v World, I think Necros are... I mean, in World v World, Necros are already pretty decent or strong. It's certainly in, like, Zerg play, they're going to get even stronger with the Reaper. I feel like it's going to... You're going to be able to change the way that you currently play. Like, my Power Well Necro is going to be even stronger, and I'm going to have access to... I'm going to have more staying power than I currently do. Position is going to still be important, but I don't have to sit at the side of the battle. I can get in there a little more, I think. And structured PvP, I don't know. I think that, you know, at high level structured PvP, power necros or necros in general just don't currently have a place in the meta for conquest anyway. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they still have a place there. Reaper, I'm a little concerned because it feels like they're one-on-one capabilities. And this is just looking at it in a bubble, right? You know, mixing with the other core specializations is going to change. But, yeah, they could have a place. I think they could have a place in a higher level of structured PvP. That whole meta is going to change anyway, so...
At an alarming rate.
At an alarming rate, yeah.
That's very true. All right, then, Brazil, round us off.
But, you know, I think it's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing the changes to blood magic as well, because that's going to be a big. Depending on what happens there, that's going to be big.
Yeah,
Well,
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Were you gonna? If you want to say something in reply to that real fast, go for it.
I was going to say that's definitely something maybe we should even talk about right now. I mean, the lack of supporting shouts. It's still mostly offensive, and they don't really help your team out a whole bunch. I think
yeah,
it's
I wanted to talk
yeah.
about that. I prepared something when we get to it. I don't know if we are there yet.
Oh well, I mean, we could go there right now. I mean, do you think
That
that
sounds fun.
Well,
um
I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people sent me emails, and a lot of people said, "Why aren't you upset about the fact that we didn't get any offensive buffs, like something to help the team, especially for PV?" And I kept telling people more or less that if we get more proper PV, I especially remember in the beginning when they were talking a lot about the mechanics of Guild Wars 2. I don't know his name, Colin guy. He said especially that they created this entire build system, an entire world to have more dynamic fights. That's why buffs didn't take. You don't have buffs that have a duration of 30 minutes. They didn't want people to stop and rebuff. And contrary to what they originally wanted, that's exactly what's happening. And it's even worse because you have to keep rebuffing because the buffs are so short, you cannot do them on the fly to get the full benefit. They were supposed to be done on the fly. Like when you're fighting, you get a bit of debuffing, a bit of buffing, and it's really dynamic and really engaging and really fun. Well, that's not happening because of the way PV is right now. But if you get more challenging PV and stacking loses its effectiveness, we can buff on the fly and we can debuff on the fly. And I always say the Necromancer doesn't need to get like more mobility to be turned into a second Elementalist or more blocks to be turned into a second Guardian. It has to be equivalent. If we are all Elementalists, then we don't have balance. It's just one class. Balance is when you have diversity. So the fact that we didn't get any offensive buffs, we got debuffs, so it evens it out. And we can only speculate that the PV system is going to be the second half, like the yang to the yin. So I'm speculating and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. I'm not sure because they failed the first time, but who knows?
I mean, do you think that some changes to blood magic, possibly interacting with the shouts, could possibly give them a more supporty side? Seeing as we know blood magic's going to be, well, they're redesigning it considerably. Do you think that's going to make it
and
it's
really fascinating because I remember Robert guy said something about Reaper and spamming Death Shroud AoE skill and combining with the trait that now gives healing on Life Blast, so you can heal your party. And I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. And I was looking through the new build system and I don't see the trait anymore. I'm like, why did he mention healing and doing AoE healing and stuff when the trait is gone? So I'm not sure the misinformation, but it could be there. Like some sort of playstyle when you're siphoning from the enemies into your group, like you're the siphon, the middle ground between enemies and your group. That would be, again, something we never seen before in MMOs, not even in single players. So it could be done. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay. Right, in that case, shall we move on to the Reaper itself? Should we talk about some Greatsword skills? So, the auto attack. I think this is a very, very interesting auto attack. The fact that it's really slow, but also it inflicts a disgusting amount of chill on the third swing. I think it means that that Reapers are going to be very sticky, very, very sticky.
Yeah.
If you allow them to get close to you and get that third attack off, it's they have easily enough time to hit you another 3 times to reapply that. And I think that's a really interesting way, because instead of just giving them gap closers, oh yeah, boring, they've designed it in such a way that you instead of giving the Necromancer more mobility, you limit the mobility of your opponents instead. And I think that's a good way of going about that. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's really cool. Like, I think the trait, I think it's called Chilling Darkness too. Whenever you blind, it applies chill, and then you have your spinal shivers and traits, and you could Greatsword with Spinal Shivers is hilarious because you can just like executioner somebody down to 50%, and then it triggers a Spinal Shivers and it takes boons off, and then it chills them again. And I think like you said, I think it's really cool. And I think the idea of like not necessarily having gap closures, well, I guess you kind of do because the Necrocopter Death Shroud, the number two that spins and it chases after the person. I think that's cool too. So you can like, I don't know, it seems really awesome in the chill and being able to blind in PVE situations. I guess if you, I think it was Greatsword number four, the one that brings down the cloud and like the ground gets dark and blind pulses and stuff. If you can also apply chill on like trash mobs and enemies, and chill them as well while you're blinding them, I think that's incredibly useful. I think that's it could potentially be better than like maybe just a thief blinding or maybe like a sandstorm on an elementalist, something like that. I think that's a really interesting kind of wild card that got thrown in a little bit. I think that's pretty fun. But
I haven't really compared it to Ranger's Greatsword yet. For whatever reason, I forgot that, even though I use a Greatsword on my Ranger. But my concern here is that it has the speed of like a Guardian's Hammer, the weapon itself, right? And in the case of Reaper Greatsword versus Warrior, it does more damage. It's a little bit slower. Makes sense. However, Guardian's Greatsword is faster and does more damage. And you know, I know the numbers aren't final yet, but you know, I hope they take a little bit of look at that. Yes, you know, I know that the last hit provides chill, and there's traits where, you know, then chill does more damage, and you know, there's all that kind of synergy that goes along with it. So maybe, you know, maybe in actual play we'll find out that that's okay. But it has me a little concerned that Guardian Greatsword attacks faster and does more damage than the Necros, when it feels like, you know, at least what they're telling us is that, hey, this is a slower weapon, but don't worry about it because it's going to do more damage. I feel like the damage numbers are a bit off on the Necro Greatsword just yet, just for the basic attack anyway.
well, it looked like they were probably using a soldier's amulet because they weren't critting very often. That would be my guess. I can't imagine it was like a sentinel's amulet because that'd be weird. But from just remembering the auto attack, I think it was it around like 800, 800 per hit. I mean, I don't, and that's probably subject to change, and I don't think it's going to really. It'll obviously be a lot different whenever we have gear and everything finalized, but
right, yeah, I'm just talking about like the base attacks for the sword, like the base numbers, not
it might
altered
be
by anything.
It might be we have a 4-second chill, but we don't know the runes. With like 80% chill duration, you can get like a 6-second chill, and the auto attack is not about damage; it's about chilling.
Yeah,
it's complicated. It all depends on the runes and the items.
I think a lot of the damage will be from executioner too.
Yeah,
I think that'll definitely be where probably the majority of greatsword damage comes from.
Yeah, the entire Reaper specialization is, to me, is like a very fancy executioner. AoE execution, single target execution. You set up a kill and you go. You're like the guy in the meta. You will have the role as a Reaper in PvP. You will have the role to finish guys off. You have you said about you being really sticky with the chill and stuff, but you also have Relentless Pursuit, which is an adept trait, like really easy to get. I mean, you're going to get it anyway because of the new changes. Anyway, you get a 60% reduction to immobilize.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something like not many classes have. So you go after people. The playstyle is really enjoyable. You know you're going to get him, like slowly, but you know you're going to get him. And when you get him, you execute. And that's a very unique playstyle that hasn't been in general in MMOs, but in Guild Wars 2 definitely wasn't. I mean, you can execute people with Thief, but Thief is squishy and stealthy and stuff like that. You don't have that executioner.
I think it'll be cool too. Just another thing. I don't know how often. I guess I might like it just in a PvP situation. I could imagine starting off a fight with Greatsword and getting your chill duration like on the target, and then going into Death Shroud and auto attacking. And the Death Shroud auto attack from the Reaper is quite a bit faster than the Life Blast that the classic Necromancer has. So if you have your Life Blast grants Might, I think that's called Reaper's Might, you'll be able to build up Might stacks really, really quickly, especially I think if you're probably hitting multiple targets. And then whenever you get your target below the 50% health, you can toggle Death Shroud off, go onto your Greatsword, and then just constantly Executioner while still having Might built up from your Death Shroud. So I think that'll be like honestly pretty ridiculous, especially if you have something like Strength, or even if you play a more defensive like with Hullbreck runes for even more like minus condition duration with the Relentless Pursuit trait, I think it was. You'll have like there will be like no like mobility impeding conditions on you at all. You'll be immune to like chill and cripple and immobilize and stuff. And you'll have Might duration. Yeah.
It solves the issue with mobility. There are far more mobile classes, but they can be slowed down. You're not that mobile, but you cannot be slowed down, so it evens the odds in a very not in the same way. Like I said, we are not supposed to be the same as a Guardian or an Elementalist or Thief or something like that.
Yeah, I think that the fact that it's not symmetrical, I consider that to be good design rather than bad design, because like you were saying at the beginning, if everyone's just got the same stuff, then what's the point in having professions, really? You know, it's if everyone does the same, that's no fun. No fun at all. Okay, so shall we talk about Gravedigger, which is a huge swing, and you spin around, and if you hit them on low, it recharges 100% faster. Pretty strong.
Yeah, so just spam the hell out of it.
Yeah.
It's dead.
I'm going to say right now, that's OP. That's OP.
Yeah.
There's no way, especially considering I'm not going to use the Elite on a build I'm going to use with Reaper, the new Elite that freezes people. I'm going to reserve that for a support build. And recently I developed this support power build. I keep saying I'll do it. And it's basically, he's like, exactly like a support in League of Legends. Like he's setting up the kills, and if you freeze 5 people with that, and you freeze them exactly when they're really low, I can with Gravedigger I can literally kill 5 people. I mean, if they don't escape in 3 or 4 seconds, but still 4 seconds to wipe 4 people, you have the theoretical potential to actually do that, and wow, people are going to rage. When they clump up and they don't know how to disengage at the same time, they'll go like, he killed all of us. You should have disengaged.
You mentioned League of Legends, and now I'm like thinking of Tryndamere with his like chicken slow and spinning around. Going after people. Oh, man. I think Necromancer is going to be like really Reaper, I guess. I think it's going to be really, really hilarious and like unranked and maybe lower ranked and like hot joins.
Geez,
You'll just be able to just farm people. Like
the rage is going to be real.
They won't be able to get away. Yeah.
in lower ranks, you'll hear people say how OP Necro is, and they can't deal with Minion Mancer. They can't deal with. It's just like when Spirit Ranger or even Mesmers, when you get too many clones out, people at lower ranks. And I don't mean to, disparage people who play in the lower ranks, but the lower ranked PvP players have a hard time dealing with multiple targets, trying to, deal with this. They get overwhelmed, and Necromancers with like, with this number 2 skill cleaving you down, and just, they're gonna be like, they need to, nerf them, and they're gonna cry out for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at 50% health and he cleaves you down and you're like instantly dead and you're like, what the hell just happened to me? Yeah.
Really important to note from the chat is the fact that if you somehow your opponent manages to chill you, it will not recharge. The recharge will be affected by that chill, so you will no longer get 100% recharge reduction. I think that's at least worth the note. But either way, very, very powerful skill. I think we all expect this to be toned down a little bit, but yeah. Okay, let's move on to Death Spiral, which is you conjure a drill of energy and do 6 little bits of damage and 12 stacks of vulnerability, and also generate life force. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but 12 stacks of vulnerability is pretty strong considering it's already got permanent uptime without even any condition. Well, roughly permanent uptime without any condition duration, and also vulnerability synergizes very well with the Reaper's toolkit with the what's it called? The thing
Decimate defenses.
Yeah, Decimate defenses, which grants a ridiculous amount of critical strike chance based on the amount of vulnerability that your opponents have. So, thoughts on Death Spiral, guys?
It's the initiator, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to initiate with chill, maybe you use a utility for chill, but it's definitely the second one. You use that ahead to boost your damage, debuff them, buff yourself, and then wreck them.
Brazil?
Well, making Gravedigger do an extra 12% damage is... I don't think there's much else to say. It's just cool. I like it.
Yeah. Inks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. It does hit 3 targets, which is also amusing. So, yeah.
Highly effective.
Good skill.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be for Sigil of Fire and Sigil of Air. Some extra proc chances. Since the Greatsword auto is so slow, you can just like you'll definitely get an Air and Fire proc out of the Greatsword number 3 for sure.
Especially if you're abusing all the extra critical chance you can get from all the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Wow, that was quick. In that case, let's move on to Nightfall, which calls down a column of shadows that pulses blindness and damage in a fairly large radius. It's also a dark combo field. I think this is really gonna help necromancers out. I mean, the AOE blind. This is good in PvE. People like this. This is highly effective, and that is not something that was. Oh, I guess they had Well of Darkness before, but this is just another way that they can get this going. Make all the creatures kind of flail around and miss you and do nothing.
Well, and this one's changing too, they said. Nightfall.
I don't remember exactly how they said that they were going to change it, but I remember that they said they were going to change it. But I think it's cool. I think that'll also be like if you're defending, say, a point in PvP, and they come up to you and you have Chilling Darkness, you can Nightfall on the point, cover up most of the point, and they either like get off of it or stay on the point and be blinded continuously and also chilled at the same time. And then at that point, if they try to leave, like you can just kind of wail on them because they'll be chilled and you'll be able just to stick on them. But I think it's pretty cool. And again, in PvE, for dungeons or for anything that's going to require like groups of mob kills where you're going to need blinds or going to want blinds, I think that's really useful. It's definitely better. I think Dagger 4 is a little bit of a blind, and you have Well of Darkness, but they're not that. Well of Darkness has a long cooldown, and Dagger 4 is. I don't really think anybody uses offhand Dagger. I think Warhorn and Focus are generally just a lot better, but I think it's good. I think having a blind on your Greatsword, and I think there's a trait in your Reaper specialization that reduces all of your Greatsword skill cooldowns. I think it's tied into Gravedigger somehow. I don't remember what it was, but I think it's like 3%. It may be, so if you have like a blind that you can reduce the cooldown on, that's AoE, that you can just use on mobs over and over, I think that's awesome. I think that's actually like really useful.
I think it's for every target that Gravedigger hits, it reduces the cooldown by 3%, I think. And I mean that means if your target's below 50% HP and you're just spamming Gravedigger, then cooldowns don't even matter anymore.
You can blind and
you may honestly be able to like just permanently blind trash mobs, just Gravedigger and.
But then again, I'm not sure how it's going to interact. There are some encounters in Guild Wars 2 at the moment that certain classes using certain builds, they can perma blind the
Yeah.
target. They hit really slow and they can perma blind and just get away that way with the entire fight. And they can solo things that I'm not exactly sure should be soloable. I saw a guy, he soloed the Mossman, Fractals 50. I'm like, that's impressive. I mean, it takes some skill and practice to get down the entire rotation, but for someone to actually do that, it deserves a slow clap. But on the other hand, once you've mastered the entire rotation and you know, like in second 2 you have to push this skill, second 3 you have to push this, you can even make a macro and you leave it automatically with the bot and it solos it for you. When I first got into Guild Wars 2, we were promised something more dynamic than that. So, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's not desirable if you give a profession tools that just trivialize everything. But I think with the way they're going about the content in Heart of Thorns, I think that's gonna. I think from what we've seen, it will certainly alleviate some of the problems that we've seen in the current version, where everything is just. You can just blind it or dodge everything, and it just completely makes everything really, really easy. So I'm not so certain that this is going to be a really big issue in the expansion.
Yeah, I think they've had plenty of time to learn from dungeons and learn about people doing dungeons and whatever. But yeah, I think it's cool. I like it. I like the idea of the blinding.
Okay. In that case, let's move on to a very iconic skill for the Reaper, Reaper's Grasp, which it says it tosses out scythes, but I think it tosses out kind of claws. It looks like claws to me. I don't know about scythes.
Yeah.
Which
it looked like claws to me.
Pull your allies to
claws.
You. Gain life force for each foe struck, and also applies 10 seconds of poison. I mean, it's the opposite. Well, it's a gap closer, but in reverse,
Yeah.
600 range.
Yeah, I mean, I personally enjoy this playstyle. I never like classes that you have to spin around and move around so much that you can't even find yourself. I played with some guys. I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, I don't know which is me. I got confused in all my clones. I prefer the slow-moving heavy hitters. And I'm like, I'm so going to get you. I'm so going to get you. And now I have the tools to bring 3 or 4 guys, which synergizes. We all know, we are all thinking it synergizes so well with Gravedigger.
Yes.
You have 3 people leaving, you bring them back, slap them twice.
It's 5, yeah. I mean, this pulls 5 targets to back
5?
to you.
Yeah, number of targets 5. Oh,
it's ridiculous. 5 is even worse than. Like...
I mean, in PvP, it's fine because people are going to jump around all the time anyway. But in World v World, when you go into a group of a lot of people and you bring 5 lower, like they don't have even gear and all their stats are a bit lower, and just trash them, it's going to cause a lot of problems until people get used to dodging the big claw that comes towards them. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of fun. I was really excited when I saw the Reaper.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you get this off, you're going to have to expend a lot of your... Well, and a lot of people are going to have to expend a lot of their cooldowns and stuff like that in order to even get away from him, because... Then the massive duration of chill is applied to you. You're hobbling away, limping incredibly slowly. All your skills recharge slowly. And I think dodging this is going to be unbelievably important if you want to continue surviving. Inks, have you got any additional thoughts on Reaper's Grasp?
I mean... you pull your opponents back to you. This is good for roaming. This is good for so many different situations. I mean, granted, you're not always going to get 5 targets, but you have the option to get up to 5 targets trying to get away from you. And I mean, it also applies poison, which is nice. The cooldown seems fine on it. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like a good skill. 25 seconds, 0.75 cast. Yeah. Looks good. It also generates life force, which is a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, 25 seconds is just enough to not use it twice in the same engagement, because that's too annoying. Like you bring them to you and they manage to escape and you use it again. That would be too OP.
All right then. That is all for the weapon skills. Let's move on to the new profession mechanic, which is Reaper's Shroud, which gives you a massive scythe, and you spin around a lot. Lots of spinning here, even more spinning to win. The new auto attack is Life Rend, Life Slash, and Life Reap, which is a cleave, another cleave, and then a spin. But the spin, well, all of this inherits all the traits that previously affected Life Blast from the conventional Death Shroud. And I think it's also worth talking on the fact that Life Reap, if you're hitting 2 or 3 targets, that easily provides enough that, you know, if you're not getting hit, you can stay in life in Reaper's Shroud.
And Death Shroud.
Indefinitely, yeah. So who wants to start us off on this one?
Yeah, and it goes with the Dampfire. It goes with the Dampfire. You create, you generate bleeds, and every hit you generate AoE Dampfire,
Burning.
as I heard it. So you can pretty much go in and keep burning everything, which stacks. So it's going to be like a whole nother way of farming.
And the speed of this chain is actually pretty fast as well. I mean,
yeah, it's really fast.
yeah.
You can stack like pretty well. Yeah.
There's also a trait that makes it 15% faster. So when I saw all of that, like it was pretty fast to begin with, but the 15%, like,
yeah,
I'm really excited about that, because right now, like, I love playing Death Shroud Necromancer. I love that build a lot, and at the same time, I also love daggers, just playing like a power dagger build and not focusing on Death Shroud so much. Mainly just because of how fast the daggers hit, and because you can use like your Locust Swarm and your Wells and just like chop people with a dagger, and it's fun. I like that. But now it's like you're getting both of that, because you attack really quickly, but it's also like huge AoE, and it builds might, and you're in Death Shroud, so you can like have your second little health bar too. It's really cool. It's like it feels like they combined, I guess, aspects of that a little bit, but just made it so much better. It's really awesome. I'm really happy about how the auto attack specifically works. I think it's cool. The only thing, I guess, the only thing that I'm like disappointed about remotely is the fact that the scythe is like blue and that the eyes are blue. I wish it was like a really lime green color. If it was that, I would never play any other class. I'd just only play Reaper. Yeah.
It's like about being not disappointed. I don't know the word for it now because I'm English. When I saw they gave us like 3 trait paths at the same time, that's when the first idea, I'm like, oh no way I'm going to get everything I ever wanted, like crit chance, crit damage, condition damage, and condition duration, everything. I'm like, what the hell? And then I realized the passives are going away and we get new items. And that's why I said about the items, we don't know the stats. Because if the stats are not going to be smaller than before, they should be higher to compensate for the lack of passives. But if they are going to be higher exactly how much you need to compensate for the passives, then we might have a lot of builds where you have too much crit chance, like going to 130%. And it's not like in the previous build system where you can just not select that trait. You selected your trait path, you have to stay on it. So I really think the items are going to be very different. Otherwise, it won't work.
But
I'm curious about the runes.
Yeah.
Because of all the critical strike chance generation, you can just you can discard that completely when you're selecting what equipment to use. I mean, there's no real need for precision in a lot of these. In certain situations, you could pick defensive stats instead. And do you think that means that because in PvE, obviously defensive stats, don't need that, just dodge everything. Do you think that means they're going to introduce an armor set that's just pure aggression, that's got power, ferocity, and condition damage on it?
Ooh.
Wow, frost and condition damage.
So like right now,
Yeah, that would be something. That
would be pretty
amazing,
cool.
actually.
so
That
like right
would
now you
be-
have Sinisters, right?
Yeah.
But that has crit
Power,
chance on it.
precision.
Mm.
Yeah, it's condition
So,
damage main and precision and power
The
minor.
Necromancer with the traits that you can take and Reaper, Shroud, or Dash, whatever the heck it's called. You're not gonna need that precision anymore, or at least there's the possibility that you won't need that precision. So if there is a stat set that replaces that with ferocity, then forget it. That's what they'll take for sure. Like people are already talking about taking Valkyries instead of Zerkers because you're not going to need the precision or the possibility that you won't need precision anyway. But
Yeah, I think from what I see so far, I mean, it's again, it's only speculation, but if PV is going to shift towards something that requires really dynamic fighting, like the way I envisioned it first, I'm like, it doesn't look that way, but maybe it will be, but it never was. And I was really disappointed in the beginning with Guild Wars 2, but it was still the best choice considering everything else. If we get like fights that require heavy AoE fighting, fights that require dodging, and we mix that together, and every single individual has its role in the team. One is tanking, one is siphoning, one is supporting, one is bursting single target. You guys know what I'm talking about with real-time blasting into stuff to generate buffs and other stuff. Like, simply amazing. The most dynamic fight. You don't even get that stuff in single players. Like, amazing. Then I'm never mind, I forgot what I wanted to say. I was in the moment. Fuck, it was really important.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Ink, so would you be?
Yeah,
you'd be
yeah.
oh,
No, I
got
got
it.
it. I got it. I'm back. I'm back. No, I think that pure builds, the definition we have of pure builds right now, are going to disappear. And I think we're going to have only hybrids. And by that I mean, I don't mean we're going to have condition damage and power damage at the same time. No, I think the Zerkers are going to compensate for the squishiness with some other mechanics. And the old glass cannons are going to have like, okay, I'm half glass cannon, half really infiltration to compensate for my glass cannons. And the classes that will have the most damage will be the classes that have damage, power damage, and condition damage. Or you have like power damage and tankiness, power damage and support, or condition and support. There's different variations. I don't think that the old pure builds are going to exist anymore because they actually can't. You have 3 trait paths now. There's no way you'd select 3 trait paths to improve just power. There's no way. You're going to add something, I mean, in Necromancer at least.
I would like, personally, I would like to see that. I'd like to see the possibility of meta hybrid builds that don't just focus on one thing. I mean,
I think that'd be cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing if we get something like. It's so hard to balance something like that because you have to consider PvP as well. But they might everything because they they compress the build system. A lot of people are complaining like we don't have so many options now. On the contrary, before we had this, we had more freedom, but it was chaotic and the actual viable options were less. But if you compress it, it's easier to balance, and every single trait does something for something. Every single trait will be useful for something. One for World v World, one for PvP, one for something else. And you can balance it that way. It's still the illusion of choice, but even in the chaotic freedom we had before, once you get the idea of the build, which build to use, you're going to use it every single time. There's no choice anymore. The real choice comes from structure, when everything is valuable. You don't have like a million options, but only one gives any profit. You have 3 options, and every single one is useful for something. So less options, but more diversity. So that's amazing.
It is. Does that sort of thing excite you as well, Inks?
Um, yeah, you know, I think that I mean, really, what it comes down to is I'm excited to see how, you know, what they're going to offer us in PvE, right? I really, not just me, but I think all of us really need to know what challenging group content means. Does this mean some sort of, you know, ArenaNet twisted, and I don't mean twisted in a bad way, but, you know, their spin on some sort of rating system, some kind of 10-man content for guilds or enclosed bosses. You know, I had a lot of fun when Triple-Headed Worm came out, and you know, I know Brazil was definitely there, and Nike and some of the other people from DNT had come along to help us on Blackgate to try and convince people to run heavier damaging builds, because that's what that encounter required of you at the second phase anyway. And the problem with an encounter like that in the open world, and we've now seen this with Vinewrath, is that it becomes difficult to control 30 plus people at each worm. So you're talking about 90 plus players at a single time, trying to control them, to get them to do certain things, to use particular builds, have a Condi team that deals with husks, have egg blockers that deal with that particular thing, mesmers for portals, etc., etc. It goes on and on. And because that was such a struggle, or because it continues to be a struggle for a good deal of people who just want to casually try it and can complete that content, you then have a boss like Vinewrath come along, and his fail condition is so laughably soft that it doesn't, you know, it's a fun encounter, but it's not really a difficult encounter, and it has some interesting mechanics. So I'm hoping that in Heart of Thorns, we can have instanced capped, you know, 10 people or possibly 25 people, something like that, you know. These encounters that can be a little more sophisticated, and these encounters can also allow us to take a variety of builds, not just you know, Zerker builds, not just condition builds, but, you know, some sort of splice to help you deal with different phases of a battle. So that sort of thing, and I think the specializations are starting to show us that this is possible, right? You have the Reaper, and you have Dragon Hunter and Chronomancer. They all do specific things, but then they can all splice together, and you can see how they're all working in a synergy with one another. And that kind of makes me excited for what PvE in general can hold, as well as the other game types. But
as an addition to what you said, if they're really like godly theoriters, they can develop a really meaningful encounter, like really hard, but the type of encounter that can be done in multiple ways, like 2 supports, 4 fighters, or 3 supports, 1 tank, 2 Zerkers, or something like that, and more than one way of doing it. That gives a lot of longevity to endgame content, or whatever the word is. Yeah. Okay,
we digressed a little bit there. But
yeah, we got off track. I apologize. But
let's bring it back to the new Death Shroud, Reaper's Shroud, attacks with Death's Charge, which means you slide forwards. I think that's a funny choice of words. I like that choice of words. You slide forwards and blast an area. It's not a blast finisher though, so maybe they're going to change that wording. And poison everyone, do some damage, and do a little leap finisher as well on a 6-second cooldown. I mean, this is what they've done to make necromancers more mobile, and I think it will accomplish that quite well, actually. I mean, and especially seeing as even if you're crippled or chilled, you still go the full distance as well. I think that's a good thing. I mean, the poison is a bit of icing on the cake. I mean, I don't think that's a particularly important part of this, but I think it's more about the mobility and a fairly good amount of damage as well. What do you guys think about Death's Charge?
I think it's cool. Being able, like, if you've got them chilled and you're working on them, or if they're contesting a point and you're beating them and they try to disengage and get away, you just charge right back onto them. And I think that's really awesome. I do really like how the Death Shroud number 2 currently works. how it shoots out the little hand and it touches them and it ports you to them. I think that's really cool. I think I'm gonna miss that mechanic and how that works right now. But at the same time, like this also, after you kill somebody, I think it recharges, or there's a trait that makes it do that, something
Yeah,
along
makes
those
it
lines.
charge faster. I'm not going to miss that skill because I have a lot of bad experience with people that are so fast that I'm using it at the right time, and they behind this tiny little bit of grass, and it says obstructed. By the time it reaches, it's already in there. It's already obstruct. Like what the hell? I also want to point out that right here on Death Charge, we can see that the Necromancer, the Reaper, is going to require high skill. You have to go in and out of Death Shroud to keep out with your mobility and the bringing of enemies closer, because you have skills that bring enemy closer. Do you? No. You have
Your
execution for
Greatsword.
single target in Dash Shroud and this execution for AoE. Outside of Dash Shroud, you have a bit of mobility getting towards your target in Dash Shroud and getting people to you outside of Dash Shroud. And you have a 10-second cooldown on Dash Shroud. So it's going to keep players on their toes. Do you go into Dash Shroud to move towards, or do you bring them to you? And it's going to require a really high amount of skill to correctly assess a fight. And I really like that because I always wanted like high risk, high reward, slow moving, heavy hitting, AoE executioner with conditions. Like, by God, where can you get all of that in one? It's like my dream come true.
Inks, what do you think of Death Charge?
I wish the range was a little bit more. I feel like it's a bit short. I really need to get in and play with it and really feel that it's easy to say something is 600 and you know, it's easier for me to visualize that when I'm actually playing and you know, measuring it up on how far I can really move. I think I'd like to see it move a little farther than 600 though. ArenaNet doesn't seem to like using numbers like 700 or like those odd numbers, so they probably wouldn't make it 700. They'd probably push it to 800 or 900, and then 900 might be a bit too far. But I think there's some middle ground between 6 and 9 that that would make it a little bit nicer for me, or I would enjoy it a little bit more. I think.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's not very long, and it's also quite slow as well. Maybe if they increase the speed of it, do you think that would be better?
Well, swiftness will.
Yeah,
No, swiftness doesn't affect this though.
Oh, okay. So it's not affected by like movement hindering conditions like cripple.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also not affected by swiftness either?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Can I just want to say a little something that I thought about, I just remembered again. In World v World, because that's the only place that's going to happen in PvP, only if you're really lucky. You have a trait that makes it faster if you kill someone, and it's already 6 seconds. So if you can get like, what's the new buff that increases recharge time?
Alacrity.
Alacrity.
That one. You get that one. Execute someone with Executioner Scythe, jump to the next one and execute the next one, and you can literally just pick out small targets in a Zerg and keep jumping from one Zerg to another and executing them. Have I ever told you guys how much I like the Reaper specialization? Oh my God, I'm so going to annoy people. They're so going to report me.
Or you can fear them off the map, off the side of the map and edge of the mist, and then just like spam in a line with the charge. If it recharges after you kill them, because whenever they fall to their death. I don't know, that sounds like it might be fun.
Yeah.
The only thing that could be more fun is if you can get to suicide with someone, like drag him with you, like drag, and then jump off, and you get lower fall damage, and you fall, and he's like, that would be too much.
All right then. Next up is Infusing Terror. Shroud yourself with dark armor that grants stability every second. You may shatter this armor to make people run in terrible fear.
which causes chill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, which also
Causes chill.
Yeah.
And the chill can damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I like this for a lot of reasons, and at the same time, I'm also kind of gonna miss the fear that's like currently on Death Shroud. I really like this because if I'm in PvP and somebody is down and I want to res them, but there are like two people stomping them, and I only have one single target fear, that kind of sucks because they might get stomped by the other person stomping. But if I have this, I can go up and I can stability and then shatter it and then fear them away. I can like save someone who is being like stomped or cleaved down by multiple people. Yeah, I really like that. But at the same time, like the fear on Death Shroud currently, I don't remember what it's called, but like you can flash into Death Shroud really quickly, like when you're running up to a point, and since it's ranged, you can just fear them away and they can get off the, like if they're contesting, if they're about to capture a point, it's neutral, but they haven't captured it, you can from range fear them off so they don't capture it, and then you can get onto the point and contest it, keep it from getting captured. I really, really like that, having that like really, really long range fear. And this, I feel like this in a situation like that, if you are going to defend a point, it can be a little bit hurtful, but protecting allies, stuff like that, I think it's incredibly useful there. And I think also having a stability while you're in Death Shroud, I think that's awesome because I don't even think anybody takes Foot in the Grave, the stability trait right now. Like I don't think anybody ever takes that trait just because the whatever the other one's called is the 50% crit chance. That's so much better. Or you could, okay. Nemesis takes the Foot of the Grave, I guess. But having that too, having stability and also having 50% crit chance, I think that's awesome. But I don't know. I've never used Foot in the Grave. I've never really used. And
Oh my god, I did. I wanted to keep it for myself. The new build that I'm releasing, the first time in PvP since I played Guild Wars 2, we did so many 2v3s on footage. It's amazing. And we did 2v4. Me and a friend wiped 4 people with my build, with Foot in the Grave. So,
wow.
that's just a little spoiler there. We wiped 4 players.
Were they moving Doomfire down into the last line, or is that staying? I don't remember.
Yeah, they moved Doomfire down.
They
Finally,
moved it, yeah.
Spy.
Okay, so you'll have to pick between Doomfire, Foot in the Grave, and the 50%
That's the
precision.
perception, yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
With this trait, if you go for more stability, you like the unseeable one. If you go for more damage, you still don't get stun locked, which was really stupid if they didn't give stability. It's like, okay, I have damage. Stun. And like, what the fuck? I never get to use it. So, yeah, some really good thinking there. I mean, even I'm not going to sound really cocky, but I would have never thought of putting stability and fear into one skill. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that goes quite well with the flavor of Necromancers, doesn't it? I mean, it's all about inverting things on your opponents and stuff like that. It just seems to make sense. I mean, what do you convert? You convert stability to fear, right? Or when you corrupt
all the time.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of like that, except not quite. Inks, do you have any elaborations on infusing terror?
I mean, other than that, I like it a lot. I think that I think giving stability here is extremely important, especially for the Reaper. The fact that you can then pop that stability to fear for a second is a great interrupt. I think there's a lot of playability in structured PvP here. That's where I see its greatest use, I suppose. But I believe fear now acts as for the Defiant bar. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe fear also takes a chunk off the Defiant bar as well. Yeah. So I mean, this is another CC that they'll have in those new situations where it's like, you know, boom, here's a quick little fear. It probably won't take a lot of that bar away, but it's something, right? So there's that to consider as well, I guess. what it really comes down to is I just like all the options that we're getting here. There's so many choices. There's so many good choices when it comes to like how this synergizes with the other like Grandmaster traits that you take, like Foot in the Grave and taking Doomfire and different things like. Although was Doomfire moved from Grandmaster? Still Grandmaster.
think it's
Still
still
Grandmaster.
Grandmaster.
Still Grandmaster.
So I just like that you have all these choices that can then work and interact with each other. Like you guys were saying, you can trait for stability if you want. You can trait for more power, more damage if you want. And the player is going to have to make those choices. And I think it's interesting what Brazil was saying as well, where this new Death Shroud, this new Night Shroud is really powerful. It's really interesting. But there's certainly going to be players out there who still want the original Death Shroud. And so now you're going to have to make this choice. Do I want to play a Reaper with the new Death Shroud, or do I want that old Death Shroud because it has, a different way of using like the fear and the chill and the mobility and such. So I think it's great that they're giving you these difficult choices to make.
My concern about that is not only will the old choices be as viable as the new ones, or the other way around. Do we have I said it's not going to be this, it shouldn't be the same. Like if I use Soul Reaping, I don't want to do the same damage in the same way as if I don't use Soul Reaping. And the other way has to have its place in the new PvE. Because in PvP it's questionable, it's balancing all around, but in PvE it has to have the old ways have to have a place as well as the new ways. It's just a different way, a different approach, two different encounters. If we don't get different encounters, all of this masterful build system is like one of the best build systems I've ever seen. It's once again for nothing.
That's one way of
I bet the
putting it.
people that made the build system went to the people that did the PV system like, guys, what the fuck? Well, what is this? We made all of that for nothing?
Okay. The fourth skill is Soul Spiral. Totally traditional. Spin around wildly for 2 seconds and hit people 11 times. That's interesting. In a pretty big area. I mean, a lot of the skills in the new Death Shroud is they have quite a big AoE because the scythe takes up about 100% of your screen. So as I think actually I want to talk about.
Does it scale on char?
Oh.
I think it was constant, wasn't it? Was the
I don't
size
know.
constant? Because they had a Norn showing it off, right?
They had a human showing it off
Or
in that
human.
MMORPG video. In
Right.
the live stream, it was a Norn. Well, at
Right.
least the shouts were Norn voice. But the human, when they were holding it in that little Lion's Arch clip, the scythe was like going through the ground and stuff because it was so big. But I guess on a Norn, I would imagine it probably stays the same size. And like on a Norn or like a Char, it may not like clip into the ground as much, maybe. Just because they'll just be bigger models, I don't know. But if it scales based on size, like Char Necromancers, that'll be just hilarious. Like that'll be so big.
Yeah. The Zero will be dragging it through the ground because you won't. It'll be like 5 Azura tall.
Yeah.
No, if you want to play a Reaper as an Azura, you have to bring a friend as well to hold the scythe up at the back. It's a 2-player game now.
Yeah.
So you've got to be perfectly in sync as well. To swing the scythe, you need 2 guys cooperating perfectly.
This may scare people a little bit, what I'm about to say, but when we're talking about like new stats, and I think this one, if you go into, maybe it's not even, you may not even have to go into Blood Magic with this, but I think this heals allies when you spin, or maybe it was Blood Magic that you could make it heal allies, because it replenishes your life force, I think. So what I'm about to say is, what if there is a stat that's like power, ferocity, and healing power, and you can spin on top of enemies and like heal people and be That's a really weird thought. Like that's a really that will make Boots happy, I think, with his like vampire stuff. I don't know, like thinking about getting new stats and like not needing precision on Necromancer anymore is like it's really really weird. But I don't know because auto attack is going to build might and it's going to build vulnerability. So you're going to have vulnerability, and you also have like if you take the death perception, then you have 50%. You could totally have another stat like healing power and just heal people with Death Shroud number 4. It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, healing builds don't have. I think for the Necromancer at least, it's missing like another 10 or 15% to be viable. I mean, in general, because you don't really need that much healing at the moment in dungeons. But even so, in a proper dungeon, I don't think it's there. I don't think the support is quite there. It needs another 10% to be worth it. The support is, like I said, to offer DPS uptime. So if you cannot offer that DPS uptime, just add another DPSer, and you all have lower DPS uptime, but overall you have a higher effectiveness. But who knows? Who knows the new encounters? Maybe healing per se that is not that much required. Maybe it's healing and debuffing and healing and blinding or whatever, or CCing, or who knows. It all depends on the PvE.
The cooldown on this strikes me as fairly high. It's on a 40-second cooldown. I don't know. I would like to see this come down a little bit. I think. I'm not sure. Not sure though. Would that make it overpowered or too strong, especially with all the synergies that we were just talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could go on top of like if you're in a team fight or something, and you could just constantly go in and like spam that and heal people with like healing power, that would be kind of stupid, I think. But or like just generate your life force if you could just constantly spam it while doing like lots of damage. I don't know. That'd be kind of.
The tooltip damage is really high.
Yeah.
And since it's a multiple hit, you benefit from on-hit effects and a lot of stuff. That's really weird. What I really liked about Guild Wars 2 is that every single skill has its place. Like single target skills have their place. When you're fighting 2 monsters, you don't use the single target, you use the AoE one. When you're fighting a boss, you don't use the AoE one, you use the single target one, and they all have their place. I think with a lower cooldown, it's not even worth it to use single target skills anymore. You just use the AoE one for everything. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah, and the cooldown is the same as a life transfer as well. So it's.
Yeah.
And I think this one actually hits 1 or 2 more times in life transfer.
I think life transfer is like 8. I may be wrong. It may be like 10. I'm not sure.
9.
9? Okay.
So this hits 2 more times.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
All right. In that case, let's conclude with Executioner's Scythe, which is a massive overhand strike, which deals increasing damage at percentages below 50%. So above 50% damage, it does a little bit, but below 25%, the tooltip damage is 1,900, and it also stuns for 1.5 seconds and deploys an ice combo field and chills. So this has got everything, you know.
Yeah, especially with the stun, you miss someone, and he heals right in your face, and you're like, ah, and now he's stunned, and you get to even do a wave and then finish him. That's. Today I did some PvP with my new build, and some guy was trying to kill me so much, and at one point I stopped and I wrote "stop it," and then I left. Oh my god, I got that on camera. It was amazing.
Someone said in chat that this skill should be unblockable.
Oh, no. Well, you can make it unblockable. Wait, no, I guess you could.
Yeah, you can make it unblockable. If you, I don't know what you do, you have unblockable. Yeah, if you you get them with the AoE stun. You
Yeah.
get unblockable or your next few seconds.
Oh.
So you AoE stun them, and then you unblockably stun them some more.
Oh man.
I think the
no.
I was going to say that I think the ice field is really nice as well, because if you can keep them in that's going to apply an awful lot of chill, and you can also get frost armor as well by using Death's Charge as well through the ice field, which I think is really strong, because there's already a trait that you take less damage from chilled targets and chilled lasts longer. But then if you have frost armor as well, there's another 10% damage reduction on frost armor. And whenever they hit you, they get chilled. And then if you've got protection as well, I mean, just think, you're not going to take any damage. Infinite health. That's one hell of an
My
exploit.
concern, there's already a lot of, in my opinion, there's enough punishment for blocking targets. There's nothing that punishes perma evade crap. That's really annoying.
Yeah.
There was a time, there was a few encounters, and I'm so sorry. I did a PvP video when I showed how I get zerged, basically, and I have no chance. And I showed some thief that totally crushed me in 1v1s, even though in 1v1s I mostly win. And there was another thief, even better than that one. I chased him from mid all the way to my close with scepter auto attacks. And I couldn't hit him once. He reached my close faster than me. By the time I got there, he went back mid and I was following him. I did like 8 auto attacks and all of them were evade. And I found the footage after I published the video. I'm like, I'm so going to put that. I couldn't hit him with scepter auto attacks, and he has like 0.5 seconds cast with an after cast of, I don't know, 0.2 or something like that. 0.7, I couldn't hit him once. He didn't even go in stealth. He was like toying with me, like ha 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 ha. And he was in a game in a guild called Focus Necro Only to troll the hell out of me.
I think that there's quite a long wind up on this skill.
Yeah.
Is that an issue, or do you just simply combo it with the stability and
The stability
Don't
from
even
number
care.
3. Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
The stability from number 3, you executioner them, and then if that's still up, you shatter it and fear them through your frost field. Maybe that could work. I don't know.
And then you death charge to the next target. Take that one.
Yeah.
You just repeat that
Oh my
until everyone's dead. That's how to play Reaper. Kill, death charge, kill, death charge, repeat.
This reminds me of the new, they made the thing they do. They made a macro for Katarina in League of Legends, and you can spam skills faster than normal. And I saw Katarina literally wiping 5 players, just blinking so fast. I had to in slow motion. You can watch it on YouTube later. It's it automatically jumps to the next target, and I don't know, it just does like this on the screen, and everyone dies. I'm like, what the hell? It's a really weird hack / macro, and yeah, you can do something like this in 1v World. I know someone's going to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall we briefly talk about the abundance of whirl finishes that Necromancers now have? I mean, you can put down the ice field there and spin around wildly and shoot off chilling bolts. That's great. Chilling's good. But I think what's really interesting is the amount of whirl finishes with dark fields, because that's going to give a hell of a lot of sustain to Necromancers, because you can be spinning, I mean, nearly constantly with Gravedigger and constantly send out leeching bolts which will steal health. And this isn't confirmed, but it may be the case that life stealing, just stealing life, will restore health to you while you're in Death Shroud.
It's confirmed.
Oh,
yeah.
It is confirmed.
Now
that's confirmed.
It restores in Death Shroud. Yeah.
Which
Behind
is
the curve,
huge.
guys. Yeah, I think that is absolutely huge.
for Necro.
I mean, with the number of hits that you get off with the number of hits from the spinny spin, and with all the vampiric stuff in blood magic, that's a lot of health stolen, and stuff with sigil of blood and leeching and stuff like that. That's a serious amount of sustain. And then if you add in the combos to that as well, I think Reaper's not that easy to kill. by any means. Anyone
Yeah,
want to comment on that?
Well, no, I was thinking about that earlier, and I just didn't think to mention it. But yeah, like fighting someone on a point and putting down Greatsword 4 and then just spamming Gravedigger, you'll be able to like just heal, and it's funny. It's great. Like, and especially if you take like you could take like I think Cavalier is toughness, power, ferocity. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
But
Sounds right.
I think,
I think that's what it is. And you have a big health pool on Necro naturally. So you can take like a Cavalier's amulet and you can put on your vulnerability with Greatsword 3. You can put down your Greatsword 4, and now suddenly you have all of this toughness, and you have whirl finishers in a dark field that you can reduce the cooldown on and just spin and heal yourself. You have a high health pool. You have toughness. You just have like, this tons of sustain and survivability. Just like, this is like, here, have this, and you get to just kill people like all the time. It's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome, but you're still lacking the mobility.
Yeah,
and that's the weakness of the Reaper. And I don't mind that. I always like to play like, I want to feel on my Necromancer if I master it. I want to feel like Sauron going against an army, you know. It takes a while to walk there, but once I get there, I want to hit and people go flying with high skill, what's it called? High skill, high reward, something like that.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Inks.
I think
someone in chat is asking what's preventing someone from interrupting all this stuff that we're talking about that you're doing. And I mean, the truth is nothing is stopping you from interrupting or evading or dodging or getting out of the way. I mean, that's where the skill play comes into action here. I mean, there will be some stability, so you won't be able to necessarily stop all of those things. And that'll be important to Necros. That's why stability is important to Necros. But you know, some of these things have long wind-ups, and you will be able to see that they're coming, and sometimes you will be able to dodge out of the way. But, you know, it's the Necro's job, it's the player's job to either avoid those hits or trap your opponent in place so that he can't avoid those hits.
Yeah, and also you have lots of big hitting stuff, and you have chill, and I think if you take Withering Precision for whatever reason, and I think there's a shout that applies weakness now too, and weakness reduces endurance regeneration. So that's all like counterplay to counterplay against the Reaper. You can prevent people from dodging more. You can slow them down so they can't get away from you. And like, it's. I think that again like plays into just like high skill stuff. It's not just pressing 1 on the Death Shroud auto attack from like 800 range away or something. It's really cool. I really like how all this is coming to be.
Yeah, and that's really important. We can talk like really high level, and people have like 6,000 games played, know all of these things, even while sleeping, they're still playing. But one of the most important things, the average player. I always say the average player. It's all about the average player, and especially in a game, in any game, it's about the average player. Is it fun? That's the number one question. Is it fun? If it's not fun, no funding, no future content, no nothing. And imbalance is not fun. Grinding is not fun. And even owning people, PvE imbalance, but in PvP, if you don't have counters, if you keep owning people, people get bored. The fact that you have to, the fact that it's challenging and demanding is part of the fun. And of course, the fact that we look really badass is also fun.
That's absolutely for sure. And that concludes all the weapon skills and the Death Shroud skills, and it's time to talk about some shouts.
Some shits.
not a fan, Brazil.
I don't know. I'm leaning more towards not a fan, but I'm still kind of taking the let's wait and see approach. But I don't know. We'll have
Like
to see.
You know,
the
I think me and Brazil talked about this before this was officially announced. You know, we did a lot of speculating, and we were both excited for, I think, more group synergy, more group support shouts.
Mm.
So it's always a little disheartening when you really put all your hopes in one basket and want that to come true, and then it's like the total opposite of what you were hoping to get.
Yeah, whenever that's I was specifically hoping for like party buffs or stuff like that
Right.
from the shouts. And when I read the article, when it said necromancer shouts aren't set on bolstering allies, they're more designed to do damage, I was like pulling my hair and like punching things. I was really mad about that, and then I settled down and I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it works out. But I don't know. It's the one that I really don't like. Like, what the fuck? A shout that makes jagged horrors? Like,
Ugh.
I don't, I don't,
Ugh.
I don't understand
No.
that. I don't know the point, but
Yeah.
like shouts that apply weakness or whatever, like that's I'm okay with that. But in the healing shout,
Yeah, I don't like the healing shout. To be honest.
yeah,
I think in almost every situation, it's just subpar. Really. I mean, if you're only hitting one target, it's terrible.
yeah. I mean, and granted, like unexpected things, like in PV, this is I guess PvP related. Unexpected weird little builds always kind of come around. Like I'm sure at some point, for like a brief period of time, there's going to be like a shout sword like necro meta for like 2 weeks where like everybody's playing soldier runes with shouts and like constantly removing condition and like healing from Greatsword and stuff, like something weird like that. But like that's all I ever expect that shout to like see me play in, like some like kind of weird gimmicky
Mm.
build that comes and goes that no one really thinks about. I honestly, I think consume conditions is just like, I think that's just going to be the heal skill that everyone uses, or antitoxin spray,
Yeah.
either one. But,
Maybe healing well in a support build, but that's about it.
yeah,
So I take it.
I-
You know,
So go ahead, Inks.
I personally, when contrary to Brazil, when I saw that we are not getting party buffs, I'm like, yes, I was really happy. Because like I said in the beginning, I don't want to have Necromancer turn into a Guardian or something like
yeah.
that. I
And-
want to debuff. Now, I'm not particularly happy with these ones, but the idea is there. I'm
Yeah.
really happy with Chill to the Bone. That's like really happy.
That's
and
the
nothing
elite-
can save you is okay.
The elite
Yes,
one is
elite.
chill to the bone.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
chill to
Mm.
the bone. And nothing can save you is okay, but I'm guessing we'll get to that when we go one by one.
Yeah. I take it we're all agreed on the healing skill, that it's not that great.
so the healing skill, your soul is mine. It's definitely lackluster. I think it would be nice if the healing could scale based on the number of targets it hits. In addition to the life force that it gives, maybe increasing the heal by about 500 more health would make it a bit better, I think.
I think a Twitch chat, source of wisdom, as always, has made some really good points. If you have the trait that reduces the cooldowns for each target you hit with a shout, and stuff like that, and the fact that when you're in World versus World or Stronghold,
Yeah.
for example, when there's a lot of targets always available, this is something. I mean, I'm being told by chat that it's 13 seconds. This is on a 13-second cooldown. I think.
Jebro says the heal increases with the amount of targets.
Oh, it does as well.
Okay, so maybe it's not as bad
Yeah,
it
as
does.
I'm thinking.
Was that listed somewhere? Because the tooltip
I don't know.
suggests
Doesn't.
otherwise.
We are looking at the tooltips, and it doesn't say here that it does. Because if it does, that's
Mm.
Okay.
that's kind of the thing to take in World v World.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just,
That sounds fair.
yeah.
In that case, yeah, I think it has. In that case, it definitely has a place, and in certain situations. So we've all been enlightened here. But there are more shouts. You are all weaklings. It does a tiddly bit of damage, and it inflicts conditions on them, giving you boons per foe struck. So it puts weakness on everyone, and then gives you 4 stacks of might for each target, 5 targets. So that's 20 stacks of might. This is effective. The duration isn't that long, but you can, with runes and stuff like that, you can stretch this out for a pretty good time, really. So I think this is actually again, if you're in 1v1, it's kind of there, it's all right. But if you've got 2 people, 2 lots of weakness, 8 stacks of might, then I mean, that's what they were emphasizing, is that the shouts are kind of okay with 1 or 2 targets, but they really come into their own when you're dealing with larger fights. And I think this shout is probably the epitome of that. I mean, 20 stacks of might, and then maybe you unleash your scary spin to win attacks and just kill everyone in 1 hit. I mean, that's what's going to happen here, I think. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, in the duration that might lasts, if you're attacking somebody below like 50% health with Gravedigger, I think you could probably get off like 2 or 3 Gravediggers with that.
2 of them.
Yeah, with the duration, and then if you have like strength runes or something on top of that, maybe like a 3rd. I think that's pretty good. Or if you have might duration and they're below 25, you say you are all weaklings and go into Death Shroud and hit them with the number 5 really hard. Boom. Like that could, if you can get the might to last long enough, I think that would be pretty funny. But yeah, I think this is probably the shout. I think that maybe I like it the second most. I think the Elite's probably my favorite.
Right. Yeah, when I first read this tooltip, I thought that it gave might to everybody in the party, and I was really excited. I was like, this is insane. And then it's like, no, it's only you, and I'm like, oh, well, that's a shame. The duration on the might, I think I'd like to see another 2nd on there, but it's not bad.
Exactly,
I think it's okay.
what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
1 more second, because it's okay if you're already there. It's like if you're ready to hit someone there and you like just and hit, but that's like best case scenario, which almost never happens unless you're fighting noobs. You need a 1 second to get to that person. It might be just too late. You start with might, and by the time you finish, you don't have might. Yeah.
It's not too crazy, but still pretty good, I'd say, overall. Let us move on to Rise, everyone's favorite one. Damage people for a tiny amount of damage and summon a jagged horror near each enemy struck.
The only way this shout is ever going to be good if it's going to be a wall and there's no upper cooldown on it. No upper limit. Like, put it in front of a zerg of people, just have like 100 of those. Then yeah, I could understand.
So we kind of already know that the jagged horrors are probably getting replaced. They said as much on the stream that they are toying with different creatures that they could use. Flesh golems would be OP probably, definitely, I guess. But there are other creatures they can do, or jagged horrors really need to get. Now it looks like they got a little bit of a buff because they were doing a bit more damage, but they need a much larger buff if you're just going to use jagged horrors. Like, they just simply aren't enough in this situation. And the other problem is AI sucks. It's just a simple fact. The Necro AI in particular, Ranger pets aside, which also need a rework, the AI on these things just isn't very good. You could even see in the videos that they were showing, they just stand at his feet. He hit 5 targets, 5 of them stand at his feet and do almost nothing for a couple of seconds. I mean, it's just... In order for this to ever be useful or ever be good, the AI needs to be fixed. It needs to be reworked, and jagged horrors need to be replaced with something more effective.
Maybe if they make them kamikaze by default, so you don't have to detonate. Have like little fuckers that explode unless you do something to them. That's something.
that would be quite a lot better.
Yeah.
Once again,
If you
ArenaNet
could-
should be watching this stream.
Like pick them up as a bundle and throw them. Or something.
Oh, that would be awesome. And especially seeing as you can pick things up in Death Shroud now.
Yeah.
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 This would be well. That would. I was gonna say this would be cool if like you made a flesh worm or something, but then that would just make flesh worm useless. But,
What?
I don't-
Speaking of golem, I want a new golem.
yeah.
It's ugly and it's stupid. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a unicorn got hit by a truck, and it's now dumb and weird looking. So many times I have the entire video, a part of a video dedicated to like I'm going to use this at the right time and interrupt someone, and just golem just charges into thin air, just charges into nothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's exactly the face that I'm making, like golem.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The next shout is suffer, which is not very nice. I mean, even if you're against, I guess you want them to suffer, especially if they're running a build you don't like. If they're annoying you, you do want them to suffer, but you do a little bit of damage. Transfer conditions to each foe. Your conditions are distributed evenly amongst your foes. Chills them and doesn't break stun anymore because that got changed. Moved to the other one instead. I think this one is kind of okay. I think maybe it needs a little bit more. Maybe if it gave all your conditions to everyone, but right now, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's particularly strong. Thoughts?
You know, I would like to see this. You know, I know that we don't want to have too much synergy here, where you're. Let's just scratch that thought. So suffer basically what I think suffer needs is that I think it really should cause all your nearby allies to transfer a condition as well. So like one condition from allies to enemies would make this stronger, and I think it should channel a little bit faster. Seems a bit too slow.
Yeah, 1.25 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, I agree. Considering it's a 40-second cooldown.
Yeah.
When am I ever going to need a 40-second cooldown skill that transfers on condition?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got consume conditions for that, and that's got
Yeah,
a much better cooldown. It just doesn't have a place.
Do
really,
anything.
Yeah.
Needs a
Alright.
buff.
Yeah. Needs a buff.
It should make jagged horrors as well.
Oh, just merge them together.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Everything should make jagged horrors.
Yeah.
Just lots of them.
Every single shout also
Scepter,
spawns
third
jagged
auto
horrors.
attack.
That will be awesome. Okay. Nothing can save you. Now this is a fun one. You damage foes around you, converting their boons into vulnerability. Your attacks become unblockable, and the duration of the unblockableness is increased based on the number of foes struck. So it will give you a minimum of 5 seconds and a maximum of 9 seconds of unblockableness. And it will also give you, on your opponents, 5 vulnerability stacks for each boon removed. It does two boons each, so you need 3 enemies to fully yeah. I think this is really good.
Yeah, it's crit chance. It is unblockable for like your Death Shroud number 5 or something. I think it's a really cool shout. And the boon removal too. Like if you say you have the Spinal Shiver trait and you're getting someone low, like an Elementalist, you're fighting them, and you manage to like take them down. They have all their boons. They have their stability and stuff. You can pull off some boons with this. If you manage to trigger Spinal Shivers, that'll take off more boons. That'll put on chill, and then you can just sit there and spin on them with a Gravedigger. Again, like the conditions to be able to do that, that's like some like perfect storm scenario a little bit, but it's still a thing. And also like if you're fighting just a warrior that like goes to balance stance, so you can't fear them, you can just shout and take the stability off, give them vulnerability, go into Death Shroud, fear them away off the point or something like that. And I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty
That's-
cool shout.
This shout was the missing link needed to take care of entire. You know, when you have a single target that buffs itself, you have boon removal for single target. But when they share buffs, there's nothing you can do. You remove from the guy, and some other guy gives the buffs back. And the well was not enough. Now with the well and nothing can save you, can actually handle teams that go into full buffing, and there is no way you get the buffs off of them. Now you have how. That's why I like nothing can save you. It's really nice.
I'd like it to be about a 0.75 second cast time over 1 second, but otherwise I agree. This is a good one.
Yeah, I think this is, other than the elite, I would probably say this is the, I would hazard to say this is the strongest of the shouts, especially considering you can reduce its cooldown as well if you want that to happen. And also a really good point from Galk the Bloody, you can get a trait that will, for each target hit by a shout, you will get a stack of might and 1% life force. So even though some of the shouts may seem all a little bit lackluster, if you can grab some might, that's pretty strong as well. And obviously life force is always good.
You sound like you're dying in Skype. I'm not sure if that's just like me or if your internet's dying.
He has some issues with his internet at times.
Okay. Yeah.
But it gets back after 1 second or so. I think because he's streaming as well.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Is it,
Did the stream die?
No, I
Hopefully
think the stream's
not.
okay.
Okay.
Looks fine.
Is it okay?
Okay.
I think it's stabilizing again.
Okay, you're starting to sound a little better.
Do I sound normal now? Am I?
Yeah, you sound fine now.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Resume. Okay, where were we on this one?
I think we were about to go to
chill
the
to the
elite shout.
bone.
Yeah,
Chill to the bone.
Okay. Uh-oh, stream is lagging.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Did you use the shout on it? Or
Yeah, I've used the shout. It's got 66% movement speed reduction. Yeah,
hopefully it...
Some guy in stream said something really, really interesting. Dr. Rock the Boss. He said shouts for Reaper needed to deal with evade thieves. And that's actually... That's just pretty smart. We can make the Rise thing. Summon little fuckers that run after targets that are evading and they cannot be evaded.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, hang on. This stream is not having a good time.
Okay.
It's my terrible
It's
internet.
Were you
clearing
actually
up to
doing
me.
the sound, or was that really you saying something and we got it in slow motion?
I think
Oh, disaster. My internet is terrible. English. Okay, right. I think it's back now. It's back now. Yes, I've got my green box on OBS is back. Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about Chill to the Bone. I absolutely love this. I think it's awesome. If you don't get interrupted, you are going to ruin everyone's life and then become immune to conditions for a while as well. And 12 seconds of chill as well. This is not good for people if they get hit by this. And of course it's a shout range as well. So be afraid. Be afraid of Chill to the Bone. It will chill you to the bone. Stun you for 2 seconds.
And the damage is actually very high for an AoE.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the wells do more, but you can dodge out of them. So overall they do less, but this one really hits hard. And a 2-second stun, like, actually works on perma evade thieves. A lot of them don't use stun breakers. And in 2 seconds you can actually kill one. I caught one once, and he died very fast. But I think he was AFK. I think he was AFK.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Go ahead, Brazil.
Well, 12 seconds of chill, like that's hilarious. Like
It's ridiculous.
I'm already thinking about going out at like nighttime in World v World with like ghost pepper poppers, like just to make it even worse. Like chill on crit, and like just this is so funny because I used to have like this dream that like chill hammer guardian would be like a thing, and just a 12-second chill is just it's stupid. And if they cleanse it, you can just start putting it right back on with a Greatsword or like your other stuff. It's just it's funny. I love it. Even like I don't care if the cooldown is like 120 seconds. Like whatever. It's awesome. I just like it for the chill duration. And the damage. Like the damage is it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like Chill to the Bone is it's an ability that if you use it well, then it can win you the fight. It can definitely win you the games. Yeah, it does have a long cast time of 2 seconds, but if you can cover this 2 seconds with stability, then you can definitely tip the fight in your favor. You know, it has a 2-second stun, 2 seconds to cast, 2-second stun, but you could hit 5 people with a 2-second stun. That is extremely strong. 12 seconds of chill is ridiculously good for the Reaper. And if your opponents don't have a Condi cleanse ready to take care of this chill and right away, the vulnerability that you could have traded over it is, I don't know. It's going to be ridiculous. And they're talking about, the resistance is probably going to get replaced with stability as well. Cool. So that makes it even stronger. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This is an extremely good one.
I feel like this is going to force warriors to like have to take Shake It Off. Because like in team fights, like if you don't have Shake It Off, like to stun break and remove conditions, like just whatever. Like 12 seconds of chill is so ridiculous to think about.
Okay.
And even resistance. Well, I think resistance would be cool, but stability, like that, I'm fine with either one of those, honestly.
Does anyone have any closing thoughts on that before we move on to the traits?
No, I'm just gonna troll a lot of people.
Excellent. This is what people have been waiting for. That's why we had you on. Go for it.
What's going on now? Oh, no, he was gonna. I think he meant troll people.
Misunderstood. Yeah, it's gonna troll people with a shout.
Yeah.
I'm going to freeze people at really bad moments, like in air and stuff like that.
Yeah. Get some good screenshots.
Yeah.
And I'm going to record it too, and I'm going to make like a wall of people, like edit it in such a way, like here. This is my collection.
All right. Let's.
Right before we move on, chat's talking about this. I had thought about this as well, but people seem to think that I want everything super buffed on Necros already. And I think there are some buffs that need to happen. But what do you guys think about the 120-second cooldown on this elite?
I think
it's fine.
I think it's deserved, really, especially seeing as you can take this down by 35% if it hits 5 people. So if you use the trait that reduces the cooldown. So I mean, I think corresponding to the power of the skill, I think 120 seconds is okay.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you
Should we get into?
Oh. Yeah, Nemesis, would you agree with that? The cooldown's okay, or would you like to see a little bit quicker cooldown?
Yeah. It's considering the average game time, and I counted, is around 8 minutes. You use it like 3 times successfully. It's not. I don't know what. It's okay. Considering you can actually stealth an entire team about the same time and make really interesting plays that way when you show up with 5 people out of nowhere.
Okay. In that case, let's talk about some traits.
Yes.
The first one is Shivers of Dread, which is whenever you inflict fear, you also chill. this is good. It was remarked upon on the stream that this is so that when you chill people, when you fear people rather, they don't get away from you. I mean, I think that's kind of an odd way of looking at it, but this means that even when they can't do anything and they're just running away in utter terror from you, you can still bash them even better. And of course, you can modify your chill so it does damage and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a two-way coin actually, because sometimes you fear people to get them off of stuff or to get away from them. Like, I'm going to fear you, run the other way around, and you fear someone is like me. Like, no, you were supposed to run away. So
yeah, this is again like the old Death Shroud number 3, just on regular Death Shroud. Like, I use that all the time to get people off of points, and I think like if we still had a fear like that was ranged and like you would be using it to get people off of points from like a distance, then having chill on that I think would be bad. But I guess with like more melee style combat, it's not a huge problem. But there are definitely still situations where I would probably rather not have the chill on the fear, just like a couple. But I don't know. I think it probably the benefits kind of balance out. So I'm not like mad about it, but it's okay.
Okay. Inks, do you have any passing thoughts on this? Shivers of Dread.
No, I mean I think it's in line with Reaper. I think it fits.
Okay. In that case, Cold Shoulder, which means the chill you apply lasts longer and you take 15% less damage from chilled targets. I think this ties in very well with what the Reaper is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a brawler and be hard to stop and hard to take down. And obviously, the dream situation is you have chill on your opponent as often as possible anyway, maybe even 100% of the time if you can manage that. So this is going to make you harder to kill and just makes your chill last longer. So I think there's nothing to complain about here. I think this is a potent minor thingy. Any other?
Yeah,
thoughts?
that's pretty much my thought too.
Yeah, I mean it's needed mitigation.
All right then, getting through this. Augury of Death. Your shouts recharge faster for each foe they hit, which is 7% per foe.
This would be really useful if they make the little fuckers explode. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't see its usefulness, to be honest.
Someone mentioned in chat that with the chill to the bone, that can take the cooldown down to 78 seconds, and that sounds about right. Which that's a decent cooldown on that. There's nothing to complain about, but yeah.
Okay.
If you can hit 5 people with that shout, and get like down to a 78 cooldown from 120 seconds, I think that's pretty good. But
yeah,
I don't know how much I'll be using shouts other than the elite shout.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to take. It's not that it's bad. It's just not as competitive as Relentless Pursuit. Because I can understand Chilling Nova being good in PvE, but if you don't take Relentless Pursuit, then
what are you doing?
You're just going to get kited. Yeah.
Yep.
I think unfortunately it doesn't have what it takes in the trait arena to compete with its other friends. So in that case, let's talk about, well, seeing we've already talked a little bit about Relentless Pursuit and how we think it's awesome and a must take in PvP really, if you're planning on using a Reaper. So let's finish off the adepts with Chilling Nova. Critical hits against chilled foes causes an explosion that chills adjacent foes, and currently they've said they're going to play around with it a little bit, but it can only occur 3 times in 10 seconds. It chills for 1.5 seconds and does 103 base damage. I mean, it's a damage buff. from just hitting things normally, and obviously you can spread your condition that makes you do more damage anyway to other things. So the damage doesn't seem that high though to me. So, maybe, or am I just being stupid here? And would it, if it was more damage, would it make this just completely ridiculous?
No, I think, in my opinion, this is a very important trait if it's used in a certain playstyle. At the moment, when you're doing AoE damage, especially in PvE, in a lot of locations, there are a lot of AoE mobs. The mobs run all over the place with absolutely, they're like crazy, and you don't have AoE taunt. And you're not going to get AoE taunt, and having AoE taunt is going to really ruin the entire like dynamic and on-the-fly combat. It's just like another way of stacking, which is even... I mean, I guess it would be better because the camera won't get weird in the corner all the time, but it's still bad. But now, if you AoE mobs, you have a way to slow them down, and you cannot perma immobilize them because then it's weird again. But the combat slows down, so combo AoE, you know what I want to say. AoE, you get to benefit from the full extent of your AoE spells. Mobs don't just go all over the place. And it will actually remove a lot of the need for stacking in corners. I hope we cannot do that, but it will give an alternative. You don't have to stack in corner to AoE mobs, you just slow them down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really good for PvE, like very good.
A good point from Galk the Bloody. This guy's got some amazing points. He points out that the trait, this generates an extra hit for granting might with the trait that grants you might when you hit someone chilled. So, I mean, this is potentially, you're going to get an awful lot of might out of this. Seeing as you obviously generate a lot of hits out of this. So you can very, very quickly stack up all that might. So I think, yeah, this is very, very strong in killing the things that aren't flyers.
Yeah, and about that, we have too much might generation potential, in my opinion. I can already, in two separate builds, I can stay like almost 25 stacks of might solo. And I have even more might now. I don't know what I'm going to do with all of it. I don't think it's needed that much. But
Okay. Well, shall we talk about some other traits then? Chilling Force, which is just the trait we were just talking about. Striking a chilled foe grants might and life force. 5 seconds of might and 1% life force. I mean, this is gonna make a lot of life force, because in situations, and obviously might as well, you can have someone chilled, a very high uptime of chill on people, and with every strike, and there's no cap on this as well, there's no internal cooldown or anything like that. So I don't know, this is quite scary. I think this is an awful lot of might.
In my opinion, it can work if you go with a really fast attack speed weapon like dagger. You stack your might and life force, really stack it really high, really fast, and then finish with Sigil of Rage, because otherwise you're lacking the precision from decimate defenses. But if you stack a lot of might on a chilled target, from a chilled target, and then you switch, you benefit from 100% crit chance anyway, then yeah, that might work. Otherwise, 50% critical strike, the potential for 50% critical strike chance is always going to be higher than 25 stacks of might, unless you go hybrid. But then again, if you go hybrid, it's weird. I already scouted out the possibility of making a hybrid with the Greatsword, and I can only make an AoE hybrid. There's no potential for single target in it. A very nice AoE target, AoE hybrid with burning and more burning and more burning, but still no potential for single target. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, I always talked about not having the same thing. It's like choosing between a bottle of Coke and another bottle of Coke. But yeah, I don't know actually, because we don't do that bad with life force generation as it is. I mean, we do when we are versus multiple. It doesn't scale. Our life force generation doesn't scale, especially with the internal cooldowns on what you call it, spectral armor. But this doesn't scale either. So I don't know. Maybe it will get changed until release. I'm not sure.
They were implying that they're still playing with the numbers on this one, and maybe giving it a cooldown, maybe limiting the amount of times it can happen. In 10 seconds again, use the same mechanic as Chilling Nova. So I think I'd be quite surprised if this didn't get tweaked a little bit before release. Inks, what do you...
Maybe if they add some, what you call them, the little fuckers that explode.
The jagged horror, yeah.
It also summons a jagged horror.
Oh, this will never get old.
Okay. Inks, do you have any comments on this one?
Yeah, people in chat are saying, and I believe Robert did say something about this probably getting nerfed a bit. We kind of mentioned it, but the 5 seconds of might, maybe that's going to be 3 seconds or something. I don't know, but this is extremely strong. Giving it an internal cooldown might be a mistake, like people in chat are talking about. So I'm not sure how I would feel about maybe you can apply 3 might and then you got to wait 10 seconds. I think that's bad. I don't really like that so much. Yeah, I don't know. It's really strong the way it is. I think it probably will see at least a small nerf, but hopefully not too much of a nerf because I like this one a lot.
All right then. How about Soul Eater, which causes your Greatsword attacks to steal health, and when Gravedigger hits a foe, all other Greatsword skills recharge by 3%. So it will...
This is ridiculous.
You think?
Yeah, just put down your Dark Field from Greatsword 4 and start spinning on them and steal health. Recharge your Dark Field and get Leeching Bolt. It's crazy. It's such a good trait.
Yeah.
That's another key element if you're going to have an AoE tanker. AoE chill, AoE sustain. Yeah. I hope the aggro system gets better. I hope it, I don't know, sticks more to some targets, at least a little bit. Because... Yeah.
And if you combine this with some of the blood magic traits, with all the vampirism you can get there on all the hits as well. You can just be stealing an awful lot of health from people, and of course healing yourself in the process. Life siphon. I really love that mechanic. I think it's a fantastic mechanic. Sorry, Nemesis, go ahead.
And it scales. That's the thing. You need scaling stuff to deal with AoE encounters, AoE situations. Unlike Life Force Generation, which doesn't scale mostly, this thing actually scales, which might make might allow the, how do I say this? Life Force might remain more for single target, and vampirism might be the answer for AoE encounters and stuff. That might be something, because you have to take into consideration outside sources of heal. Because if you get like over 600 or 700 passive healing, then people are not going to bring you down that easy. Like per second, you can even get, if you're lucky, you can get 1k. I remember I made a build once that did, I forgot how much. Anyway, 400 something, I think. With this, you can break 600 with new runes, new sieges, new stuff like that. You can easily get to 600 with some passives from Guardian and Elementalist. We're looking at 900 passive, which in 10 seconds is 9k, 20 seconds is 18k. That's Jesus.
Yeah, what do you?
That could be. This could actually be a bunker. Looking at this with so much healing, that could be a bunker.
Lifesteal bunker.
Huh. Yeah.
Oh. Especially with you know, the fact that you can stay in Death Shroud while this is happening as well, if you want to.
And
Yeah.
heal while in Death
Yeah.
Shroud. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Death Shroud is the bunker will not be that effective when there's few people, because you cannot siphon off of them, so you stay in Death Shroud during that time. And as soon as more people come out, you rely on your siphoning. And that's if something like this is actually viable, that's actually very smart to whoever thought about it. That's like, how do we make scaling defense without actually restructuring the entire way Death Shroud functions? Because if they make Death Shroud scale, that's going to change all the skills that give Death Shroud, give life force or whatever. So that's actually very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that these, not so much in the Adept line, but definitely the Master line, there isn't one of these that I don't want to take. And I think that's I wish the Adept line was kind of like that. You know, the Adept line maybe needs a little bit of work, but the Master line, all of these, there's definitely situations or there's builds that you can think of or combinations you can think of where it's like, I would love to have Chilling Force, or I could definitely use Soul Eater in this way. Decimate defenses, which we haven't talked about just yet, you know, definitely has a place. So I think it's nice that all of these options seem like they're viable.
Yeah.
Yep.
The masters are highly competitive with each other. I think all of them have certainly have a place. Especially, I mean, this one, the next one and final one, hardly needs an introduction. Decimate defenses. Striking a foe with vulnerability increases critical hit chance per stack. So if they've got 25 vulnerability stacks, suddenly you've got 50% extra critical chance. I mean, to me, this just seems like you're going to have builds that revolve around this, and you can just completely throw away precision. There's no real need to have this, especially with the what is it called? Death perception. Death perception. That's right.
Death perception
increases. Yeah. So you've got another 50% critical chance while in Death Shroud. So if they've got 25%, 25 vulnerability stacks, and you're in Death Shroud, suddenly you've got 100% crit. And that's, you know, with no precision. You have no need for precision in this build. I think this is a very strong trait in an awful lot of different situations.
I think what's even more interesting about this trait is, you know, right now we're talking about just the Necro by himself, how much vulnerability he can stack, which is a good amount. And it seems like most classes are going that direction. It seems like most classes are now have this ability, at least so far, to stack a lot of vulnerability. But if you think about this in a party-wide buff in a 5-player team or something, Dragon Hunters can now instantly stack 25 stacks of vulnerability, even if it is short duration. Engineers have always been good at stacking vulnerability. There's just so many classes now that, you know, I'm missing a lot of classes, obviously, but there's so many classes now that still stack vulnerability extremely quickly on top of the Necromancer that it's almost going to be. It's going to be a rare situation where you don't have 25 stacks of vulnerability on something.
That's the thing. Maybe the reason we now have increased capacity for stacking vulnerability, maybe it's required because you will be also required to break combat a lot. Maybe it's that challenging that you have to break combat a lot, and by the time you get back, they don't want to make players, okay, now we have to rebuff, now we have to re-debuff. You break combat and you get back and it's still there and you can continue. It's all about having fun, not constantly segmenting the combat. Like, okay, we go behind this corner, we rebuff, we burst. Okay, we move, we go to this corner, we rebuff, we burst. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. All right. In that case, shall we talk about some Grandmaster traits?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I think we're ready for it now. Blighter's Boon. Gain life.
The one that Wooden Potatoes didn't understand.
Gain
the
life
lore
force.
reference, right?
when you gain a boon. If you are in Reaper's Shroud, gain health instead. And obviously, I think the obvious synergy here is with Chilling Force. You can imagine if you were hitting 5 chilled targets at once with this while you're in Death Shroud. I mean, the amount of health you get out of this would be pretty insane.
And you get might from the Death Shroud auto attack, anyways. So yeah, it's like altruistic healing and empowering might that doesn't suck. That's like basically what it is. But it's really funny. Like, I don't even being able to heal while you're in Death Shroud just so easily. Like in like your Reaper Shroud, like you generate might so quickly with the auto attack because of how fast it is, and being able to heal off of that. And like if you need to build up might really quickly, like if you're able to do that outside, like you have your shout that makes, if you're targeting 5 people, it gives you 20 stacks of might. If you build up your Death Shroud, your life force in like an instant with that, that's crazy. That's awesome. Like you can immediately just go into like Death Shroud and execute people, or go into Death Shroud and like build up your health, or like anything really. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I really like it.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Inks?
I mean, ASCII in chat basically said it. You know, Reaper's Might, Chilling Force, Sigil of Strength, Rune of Holbreck, and Blighter's Boon. The potential is absolutely ridiculous with this, and yeah, I love it. I absolutely love Blighter's Boon.
Would you agree, Nemesis?
Yeah, I mean, it's except for World v World where you need Reaper's Onslaught so you can jump and execute people so they rage about it. I still have that dream about jumping in a Zerg. I always wanted to do. It's like the best one to take because if we are going to go down to Deathly Chill, Chill does damage, additional damage when foes below health threshold. Now I have one question. Is the chill going to scale off of condition damage? Because then it's really weird because nothing else in here scales off of condition damage and it's basically useless. And if it doesn't scale, the damage is too small anyway. So it's between Blighter's Boon and Reaper's Onslaught, and you're not going to take Reaper's Onslaught in PvE or PvP anyway. So this is basically the Grandmaster trade to go.
So let's segue into Deathly Chill then. See, you think the damage is too low on this, or maybe you wanted to scale with power and not condition damage.
I think if it scales with power, then it's too strong. As it is, it's too weak, and if it scales with condition damage, makes no sense. So,
do you think?
Well,
I don't know.
You can reduce the scaling with power. You can make it scale very small, maybe.
But so you think maybe a base damage increase would be the best way to go here?
That could be possible too, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe if you can add those little fuckers that explode.
Deathly Jagged Horror.
Yeah.
Chill summons a Jagged Horror to attack your enemy. That would be really good. That'd be a lot of Jagged Horrors. Inks, enlighten us. What do you think about Deathly Chill?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not, out of the 3 that we have here, Blighter's Boon being my favorite. I don't know. I'm not exactly. I don't know whether it's the damage or the fact that it feels a bit odd to me, but something is off with this trait. It's either not strong enough or it's just not enticing when you match it up with the others. For funsies, I guess I think it has. I think some people might take it to play around with it. Maybe I'm just missing something here, but I don't see the point when you compare it to the other 2.
Speaking of the other
just
2,
me maybe.
What about Reaper's Onslaught? Attack faster while in Reaper's Shroud. killing a foe recharges Death's charge, and the attack speed increase is 15%. So, given that the auto attack is already pretty fast, you're just spinning this thing around constantly with this trait. It's just, this is the Dervish simulator. Like, once again, this Guild Wars 2 is now the premier Guild Wars 1 simulator. You can relive your Dervish experience with the Reaper. I mean, in some respects, this is just 15% more damage while you're in Reaper's Shroud, and that's good. And obviously, being oh, go ahead.
I like it. Well, no, I have a feeling I'll probably end up using this trait in PvE, just for the attack speed to build up might faster, especially like if I wander into a pug group or something, or maybe if I'm trying to solo some stuff. Being able to build up might a lot quicker and being like that much more self-sufficient, I really enjoy that. Like, I've always kind of enjoyed that aspect of Death Shroud builds, just being able to generate your own might. Granted, it is a little slow currently with how slow Life Blast is, but being able to do that like already faster from Reaper Shroud and then again another 15% faster, I think that's really cool. I like this trait a lot too. I don't know that I would really use Blighter's Boon too much in PvE. I might prefer this one, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, I mean, obviously, I know you intend to use this trait a lot, Nemesis. But do you have any more thoughts on it? Go ahead.
No, nothing that hasn't been said so far.
Okay, Inks?
Yeah, I agree. You know, same with Brazil. Reaper's Onslaught PvE. I think this is my choice there. You know, some people, just to address it, some people were saying that I'm totally out of my mind with Deathly Chill because it matches up really well with condition builds. That may very well be. I don't play Condition Mancer, so I apologize. I don't have a whole lot of experience playing Condition Mancer because I play Power Necro. Even, you know, in World vs. World, I play Power Wells. In PvP, I play a Power Necro, and in PvE, you know, Power again. So I just feel like, and I could be wrong on this because I lack experience, you guys can correct me, but it feels like Necros, at least currently, and this could be changing, but it feels like Condition Necros don't stack conditions fast enough, or at least in relation to other condition classes that are stacking conditions.
The thing is with condition, because I used to play condition a lot, and I play hybrid a lot, especially in fractals. You don't have the setup to actually benefit from condition stacking, because you don't stack fast enough because it's a flawed system at the moment because of the condition bleeding cap. You are not supposed to stack 25 on your own because there's so many skills that stack by accident. And Epidemic, I can be FKing and only hit Epidemic, and if the monster has all the conditions in the game it benefits from my condition duration, my condition damage. So hitting one Epidemic could literally spread a lot of mobs, like instantly kill them. It does like 3,750 from 25 stacks of bleeding, DPS, and another 2,000 something from confusion, and another 500 from burning, and another a lot. Anyway, it stacks up to like 7 or 8k DPS times 5 targets, which is 40k DPS for the first second of Epidemic, and it slowly goes down. But that's like the highest DPS in the game. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, it's insanely big. It's insanely big, the scale, the Epidemic thing. The problem is we don't have any good place to use it because the monsters in AoE go all over the place. People don't release condition builds because of the bleeding stack on a single target. So yeah, the problem with this, you said, some people said in the chat that it scales with condition builds and stuff like that. Yeah, that scales with condition builds. But we don't have anything, like I said before, we don't have anything that works around that. And I go into an entire trait line and get the Greatsword, which doesn't do that much besides chilling in terms of conditions, just to... Actually, it might work. No, I just realized that you can add burning with the Greatsword. So it might work, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, some guys in chat were saying that it's kind of odd that killing a foe recharges a skill that already has a short cooldown, and that maybe it would make sense if it, say, took 3 seconds off all the cooldowns in Reaper's Shroud. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's going to severely modify a lot of the calculations in terms of balance that were done already. If they're going to take 3 seconds of all of the skills, then you have to remake all the damage values. So even if it's a good idea, I'm not sure anyone is going to make the calculations for it at the moment.
Inks, what do you think about Reaper's Onslaught?
Yeah, you know, I've already said I think it has its place in PvE, and I think this is the trait that you'll probably, I mean, we don't know for sure, but at least right now, if this was to go live tomorrow, this is the trait that I would take in PvE, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say that would be probably the best. Is there disagreement from Nemesis? From either of you two?
No.
I don't know. No, it's just the way you were looking, you were thinking,
no, you're right,
what is this idiot talking about?
No,
I'm gonna go leave mean comments on his YouTube channel now.
Yeah, I love those feedbacks.
Oh, Inks, you found him out. All those people who leave mean comments, it's just Brazil on sock accounts.